All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining me today. Today, we are talking about everyone's favorite topic, insurance. And with that, I have Joe Lombardi from JL Insurance, who is going to break down what is happening in the insurance industry and ways you can prepare to help your rates as you're trying to get quotes for insurance. Joe, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
So, you are the owner of JL Insurance. What is JL Insurance?
We're a commercial and personal lines brokerage here based out of Naperville. We serve all of Illinois, 20 plus other states, 30 plus carriers. We'll insure anybody with or up to a $5 million house, $10 million houses we have, all the way down to somebody that's renting an apartment in Chicago. Primary focus is higher net worth, but we work with anybody. We've got a staff of seven here that we range and have different specialties. So we're pretty well rounded in what we're able to offer.
Very good. Now, when people think insurance, I think a lot of times, especially with the commercials, and I'm sure we'll see a ton of them with the Super Bowl coming up here. I think insurance, it's all the same, but you mentioned you have 30 different carriers. Each carrier can fit a person's need differently, correct?
Yeah, carrier, and even within that carrier policy type, you can have a similar policy from each carrier. The carriers have different levels within those even. So it's really just it's very dependent per person, per location. It can even go as far as it's for who's the primary named insured. The one spouse could have a much better credit than the other, and you want to list that person first. So there's a lot of intricacies to it. It's not overly complicated, but if you know what you're doing, it can make a big difference.
So a credit score, I think a lot of people maybe don't realize like credit score can affect your insurance rates and what you get. If someone's coming to you for a quote for insurance, what are some of the big factors that would affect their rates that they're getting and maybe that they could prepare for if they're getting ready to buy their first house and they want to make sure they get their best credit or they're making, or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
their best insurance rate? Like, what are some things they can prepare for to get that rate the best it can be?
Yeah, credit's one of the biggest factor, if not the biggest factor when it comes to home insurance specifically. The higher credit score, lower your insurance rates will be. It's not it's the biggest indicator, but not the only one. Some people say, "Hey, I got perfect credit." When I think you have three claims and you're in a area that just had a tornado for the last 2 years come through. So, if someone's trying to prepare, especially if it's a first-time home buyer or new purchase for a home, let's specifically talk about home insurance on this. Roof's a huge impact. If a roof is older than 2015, you're going to have higher rates or you're going to have lower coverages implemented by a carrier. If if the home's older, that's a big thing nowadays as well. The carriers really like a home newer than 2000, which doesn't seem to be too much of an issue in this area. But you go around to some downtowns and you're early 1900s and even some late 1800s. So for a first time home buyer, I would say focus on things you can control, which is your credit, and then also the coverages within that policy that can really change the rates, but you also don't want to go bare minimum. It's about balancing and having a good value in insurance costs.
Now, you mentioned claims, and we've had this conversation a few times where there's been over the course of years, it's like hailstorms comes through, claim it, get a new roof, and get it pushed through. But that's really affecting rates. I know there's kind of pockets of like rates in California are probably being affected by fire in Florida. It's the hurricanes
So
and flooding. Are those hailstorms affecting things here in the Midwest when people are claiming to get the new roofs from them?
yeah, over the last 5, 7 years, it's been a huge impact. Finally starting to calm down a little bit, mostly because everybody has a new roof.
Yeah.
And the carriers have adjusted their coverages. So a lot of them gone to ACV, which stands for actual cash value versus replacement cost. If the roof's over 10 or 15 years old, they're implementing that. For Plainfield, the southern Naperville had that tornado go through. So that area, those rates did go up. One, because of the claim payout, but also because one tornado goes through, likelihood of another one going through, just the way the patterns go in weather. And it even goes as specific as sub zip codes of a zip code. So we have some zip codes, let's say in Burridge, that it's if it's over a county line road and it's in Cook County versus I forget what the other county is right there. The rates can be 20, 30% different, and you literally went 30 feet across the street. That's it. So, like I said, there's so many different parts to the rating factors, and you really can't compare yourself to your neighbor or your friends because you just don't know what they really have at the end of the day.
Now, everyone has to have homeowners insurance if they own a home. At least if you're getting a loan on the house, you have to have homeowners
Yeah.
insurance. Most people have cars, so it makes sense to bundle. What other products, like when does it make sense for an umbrella policy? When does it make sense to add in other add-ons in the insurance industry?
Yeah, bundling home and auto almost always makes sense. It 1 out of 20 times we see it financially make sense to split them off. We might see a carrier like Travelers just have a killer rate on the home, but their autos aren't great. Maybe there's a bunch of kids in the household and the Travelers auto policies don't favor kids. It might make more sense to put the autos in AAA, for instance. Every once in a while we see that happen, but it creates headaches typically with billing and for the clients. We try not to do it too often. Adding an umbrella is always a positive. I think it makes sense for almost anybody, especially if they're owning a home. If you're 23, have a one car and it's just you and a renter's policy, you probably don't need to have the expense of an umbrella at that point. But if you're purchasing a home or have a home, I would say it does. It protects you from a very litigious state that we live in. So yeah, a couple $100 you pay a year for that umbrella can save you a long time of heartache. That's for sure.
And so what sort of things does an umbrella policy cover?
Yeah. So let's say your dog. It's a one that happens pretty often. You have a dog bite somebody in the face, bites your neighbor's kid in the face, and it's bad. The umbrella can go over let's say it's $500,000 liability limit on your home. The umbrella provides, if it's a $1 million umbrella, provides another $1 million in coverage for that claim. Auto, same thing. It's going to extend over your base limits on the auto. So you get in a bad car accident, it's your fault. Your umbrella is going to go over that policy and cover you further. Good part about an umbrella is in most claims that we see that go into those kind of limits or that amount of money, the attorneys that go after these lawsuits, they almost never go past what an umbrella limit is. So let's say if your base limit on the autos 250, 500, so 500,000 is the max payout they're going to get on the base policy, and the umbrella is another 1 million. That attorney is almost never going to try to go over 1.5 million because they're happy with that payout. They know they can collect their whatever percentage of 1.5 million and move on to the next one. It is extremely rare. We see that 1 out of 100 at best that we'll try to go after that. So it really gives you a lot of or I should say, a lot of separation from that liability of being sued personally further.
Some peace of mind.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm looking for. Yeah. Thank you.
Let's say I already own a house, roof's in fairly decent condition, insurance renewal season's coming up, the time I have to renew. Are there things, and what are those things that I could add into my house to maybe bring down the insurance policy rate a little bit?
Yeah, we want to make sure we're looking at rates appropriately. Everybody's like, hey, I want my insurance to be cheaper, which I completely get. I want my insurance to be cheaper. We want to make sure we do it in a smart way, though. We don't want to be just stripping coverages off of a policy to save a few bucks here and there because sometimes the value doesn't make sense. But things you can do, let's say, keeping all things equal coverage wise, a big one recently is doing a water detection system. It's not a huge saving. Maybe say if your premium's $2,000 a year, it'll save you 50, $75 on your home premium. But the systems typically aren't too expensive. And what is nice about them is let's say it's minus the savings on the insurance, it will keep you from having a large claim down the road because the water detection systems, if it's an automatic shut off on the main part of the home, or it's just one that's for like under your sinks, it really can save your butt with having a large claim and issues down the road. Other than that, alarm systems is a big thing. If you have a central alarm system, cameras, none of these are huge savings, but $100 each, let's say max, save $200 a year, and you also have the benefit of having those systems within your home.
So I've never heard of a water detection system before. So does that detect like if a pipe's leaking? Does that detect if water is
Yeah.
coming from outside in a flood? What is that?
Yeah, so it's become very popular, especially if you're north of $1 million, I would say, for the home. But a lot of people are even putting them on, just standard air quotes $500,000 house, and they're little sensors that you can put under the sink, or they even can be attached to the actual pipes themselves. There's these little sensors, and then you have an app on your phone, and it'll alert you if it detects too much moisture. So let's say if it's just a slow drip, it'll even alert you that saying, "Hey, there's a slow drip," or it'll say, "Hey, there's a water leak in bathroom, whatever, or under your kitchen sink." And what's nice about it, if you could spend a little bit more money, and I want to say it's up to 400 or 500 bucks, it'll actually have a master shutoff valve on your main inlet to the house. These are great. We see for people that snowbirds from Florida to Illinois, that it'll automatically shut the pipe off at the house if they detect a water issue and they're down in Florida. And you can also do that from an app. Almost all of our, I'm sure hundreds of people, thousands of people with second homes or vacation homes. And almost all of them have them on their vacation homes or second homes because when they're not there, they just hit the button, shut the water off to the house. They know they have nothing to worry about water wise. No leaks, no pipe bursts during winter. And it's as easy as you get back in the house, you hit the button, your water's back on in the house, no issues.
Can those, and I'm assuming I know the question, but say we had this recent freeze that came through here in Illinois. Say I'm traveling, I'm out of town. I'm like, oh, shoot, this freeze is coming. Without there being a leak, can you just shut the water off
Oh yeah,
and keep it from
anytime.
actual freezing? Okay.
Yeah, I actually have it here in my office, and yeah, if let's say I know it's going to be really cold at night, and I don't trust the radiant heating my office has for whatever reason, that day we had like -20, I did it
Yeah.
because let's say for some reason the heat didn't work at night, it wouldn't take long for the pipes in here to burst. And like I said, it's literally a couple, let's say 500 bucks, and I just push a button, all the water's off in the building.
Are those products through insurance companies or are they just separate
No,
companies you can contact?
no, I would just say contact a plumber.
Okay.
So they're very basic ones, like I said, that are 50 bucks per location, not even. And they're just these little, almost like an air tag you just throw under the sink. And then there's also ones that I've seen clients with them that are up to a couple grand, and they're very smart systems. They're good, but 99% of people don't need that or need to pay that amount of money.
Yeah, I'm thinking I had an incident recently where I changed the filter in my refrigerator and
Yeah.
it wasn't in right. And I had water coming out of it and we didn't catch it. And like the freezer was like a block of ice because the water was trapped in there.
Mhm.
So I think, oh shoot, that would have caught that. But then you travel and you get nervous. Is the water okay? Is this
Right.
what's going on there?
The,
Great.
the two the two big ones I would say just real quick is I tell everybody put it or three, let's say washer and dryer, especially if it's upstairs. So put it one by your washer, one by the dishwasher in the kitchen because those are the biggest source of leaks. And then the other one is just your kitchen sink. Those are the three parts that we see the most amount of claims from. And if you just put a tag by each one of those, the likelihood of you having a water issue down the road was significantly reduced.
So the tags you're talking about, they just like the cheaper ones, they just detect the moisture. So if the washing machine upstairs is leaking, it gives you an alert to either get somebody over there and fix it
Yeah.
or go yourself and shut off the water.
Yeah, because let's say your wife, for instance, she's working from or she's at home, takes the kids out, but threw the laundry in the wash. She's shopping at Target and it overflows. How would she know she's not there at the moment? And she'll get a
Yeah.
detect on alert and she can either get back home or figure out something to call you.
All right. Very good. Anything
Yeah.
else that people should know? Is there shopping insurance rates, cars, auto, anything?
Yeah, I would say you want to make sure you're using a trusted person or somebody you hope you can trust. It's all about because someone can get you a cheap policy no matter what. The independent carriers, like myself, a broker, we have much more leniency. I've been on the other side with a captive, like a Farmers, State Farm, Allstate. They don't have as much availability as we brokers do. Have their good options. But I would say the big part is having somebody that can really go and fight for you and find you the best options, price wise and coverage wise. I tell people if they're only shopping for price, we're probably not the agency for you because that's not how I operate. Because if something does happen, I want you to be protected. But the big thing is just look at the whole picture, not just the price. Because if the time comes when you have to file a claim, you want the right coverages to be there, and you'll be glad you spent the extra $10 at that time.
I think that's a good point, especially for auto. Because a lot of times people be like, I got this really cheap quote from online and it's the there's like a state minimum that has
Yeah.
to be carried, but you really
This,
don't want to only have the state minimum, right?
oh gosh, no. No, they've raised the state minimum a few times and it's still only 2550, which means 25,000 per person in accident, 50,000 per that total accident, which means $50,000 in total coverage. That that's 1.5 nights in a hospital, and past that, if you hurt somebody, that's coming out of your pocket. So that means 2 nights in a hospital for somebody in a bad accident. The rest is coming out of your own pocket. When you could have tripled your, or no, 6x your coverage for 100, 300, and probably maybe spend an extra, worst case scenario, let's say $100 a year or $150 a year. You 6 times your coverage. And those are the kind of things that goes back to having somebody you can trust to give you a good proposal and not just, hey, I want to sell you a policy. I want to make some money off of you. Because there are plenty of the typical State Farm office, a guy, new kid that's in there, he's trying to sell a policy, get his bonus or whatever it is. They'll do that. Can't hate on it, but that's not what I'd recommend to somebody. I think you want to make sure that you have somebody that's going to fight for you in both ways. If a claim happens, they're going to fight for you, and they're also going to try to lead you in the right direction, coverage wise, even if you don't want to hear it. Sometimes I have to help clients along that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not what they want to hear, but it's what they need to hear, right?
Yeah, and it's not even, there are plenty of times where, or vice versa. I have clients that will come in and say, hey, I want a $5 million umbrella. Like, honestly, you don't need to spend a couple $1,000s on that umbrella because once you get over a couple million, it becomes expensive. I'm like, you're pretty good at 3 million. We never see claims go above that. If somebody really wants it, go ahead, but we try to make sure people don't overspend if they don't need to be. Only give them what they need, hopefully not too much more. We do believe in overinsuring a little bit. We definitely don't want to underinsure, but there's a good middle ground there to be had.
Awesome. Joe, thanks for joining me today. It's Joe with JL Insurance. We'll put his contact information in the description below, and I'm sure he'd be happy to chat with you if you have any questions or any insurance needs.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.